Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Let go and love. The circling ruminations convincing me to solve unconscionable equations with thoughts. But oh, everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Let go and love. Let go. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Let go and love. Let go. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Let go and love. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Let go and love. Let go. Everything will be alright.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MASL in the Box Live with your hosts, Adam, Matt, and Gio.
Everybody get.
Good evening, MASL in the box.
What it do? What it do?
Live
Good evening.
Monday,
We are
March
live.
15th, something, 2021. Daylight saving time.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice. The sun was out until like what, 7, 8 o'clock?
I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah.
How is my volume?
What?
Don't do this.
No, it's kind of low. To be
is
honest
kinda
with you,
Is it really?
Yeah, a little bit.
a little bit. Yeah, you're
Uh-huh.
like you're like at a Brian Ackley level. We need you a little higher than that.
Am I going lower?
And he shoots.
Justin Stinson.
Save.
Stop doing this to me.
And the ball
Okay,
goes
you're.
on.
I mean, you're all right.
Like the song, get it? Everything. Never mind.
If I turn up my volume, you're louder. Does that help?
We should all just go really loud, like St. Louis.
I can't really do that. I mean, I could get like right up to the microphone.
That's what you'd have to do, yeah.
So before we go into anything, I want to go and just sit on a soapbox for a second. Kids' toys these days are hilarious. So Henry's birthday was last week. So we went to my parents' house, and my mom and my sister got him this. Okay. What do you think this does?
Make a sound.
Family answers.
What kind of sound do you think this makes?
Is that a
A
fart
fart
gun?
sound. I knew it.
Why on God's green earth didn't we have this back in the day?
All in favor of replacing the corn dog with the fart gun as the MSL symbol to bring fans together? Say aye.
I could sit here and use this as like a swear thing, like I don't give up about the MASL playoffs. Okay, there we go. I'm done.
This
How's
leads
it, how's
this
the
leads
interlude?
really well into the first topic of the show. For those of you who saw the San Diego Ontario game, there was a bit of a scandal going on, and let me just play this.
Well, Philly, we did have a little bit of investigative reporting there at the halftime. We can confirm we do have a scandal in tonight's game. This is
Ooh, I like scandals. What do we got?
So we did mention earlier that between the first and second quarter, athletic trainer Paul Savage of the San Diego Sockers went over to the officiating table and was having quite a spirited conversation with the officiating crew. Thanks to some sideline reporting, we can confirm the nature of that conversation, Philly.
Well, why don't we hear it? You're the investigative reporter this evening. Let's hear what you got.
The San Diego Sockers are challenging tonight's game balls, claiming that they are too slippery. The San Diego Sockers asked for the opportunity to take the game balls and scuff them up in the name of player safety. That request was denied by tonight's officiating crew. So San Diego's complaint of slippery balls has been rejected by the officiating crew. Have to say, that is the first time I have heard that one. We did seek a third party in this to try and get some clarification here. And in the stands tonight, we do have Tacoma Stars keeper Waltman. We asked him what he felt about the game balls both tonight and in his matches earlier this week. He did not echo the sentiments of the San Diego Sockers. Again, that request denied, and we play on with the balls that are in play with their current level of slipperiness, Philly.
You only get that kind of insight with Jonathan Reimer. That's why we call him our swashbuckling sommelier and our investigative reporter extraordinaire.
Investigative reporting on slippery balls here in the MASL. Interesting, to say the least, that development. Scandal, potentially, although not echoed by either the Fury or the Tacoma Stars.
It's hilarious.
So, I mean, obviously, the absolute perfect topic for the MSL.
I love that they didn't crack a laugh, anything.
I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit.
Oh, that is just.
That was perfect.
I've seen that clip about 40 times, and I still laugh every time I see it.
Oh Lord!
I mean, granted, I have the sense of humor of a 12-year-old, but that's just me.
Right.
But so the funny thing is, we've been trying to get him on the show. Brian Farber, we've been trying to get him on the show, and we will. He's actually gotten back in contact with me. I'm thinking maybe somewhere in between the playoffs or something, but the Sockers designed the ball. Like, I don't understand how the Sockers could design the ball
And complain about it.
and then complain that it's too slippery. And how exactly do you scuff up a soccer ball?
So, do you think that they think their lack of offense is because of slippery balls?
So Jonathan's in the chat. He said it was not easy to keep a straight face. I couldn't. There's no way.
Oh my God!
Not a chance.
That was the first time I have heard that whole thing. That was, oh my God! That is.
I'm listening to it and like, oh, we have a scandal on the side. I'm like, okay, what now? Because what other thing could we have between the team that can't score more than three goals a game? And then he starts going into that, and I'm like, oh my God, am I really hearing this?
Someone's got to have that on a bingo card. If you have slippery balls on your bingo card, just mark it off.
Go see her.
No, seriously, my hat's off to you two for keeping that just composure to get through that whole thing because I would have died laughing.
Oh,
My
it was.
God.
I think, I think next year we should make instead of a bingo card, it's not going to be BINGO, it's going to be BLAST. And we're
Yes.
going to put in different things that we think might happen during the season.
That is one of the most amazing ideas I've ever heard, and I'm going to write that down.
He's writing it down on the notepad.
It gets synced to the cloud as long as Microsoft is online, which they weren't today. So thanks a lot for that, Microsoft.
Well, and if you forget, you can actually watch it again.
That's true. And we're putting slippery balls right, like B1 is going to be slippery balls.
That'll be the free space.
the free space because we know it's going to happen. All
No,
right.
my free space will be Baltimore commentators complain about fouls.
Like, just mark it off.
Why do we gotta go down that road?
Well,
It's an
the
easy
bingo
road to
card
go
is
down.
the blast, and it's going to happen.
Because clearly every team complains about that now.
I do we even need to try to do comparisons?
Not today.
I will dig up a replay of what's his face sitting in the penalty box whining about the rules that he doesn't even understand.
No, that is true. But
Can we just
that sounds like a St. Louis broadcast.
Can I just for 10 seconds? I have like 10 words that I need to say.
Only
Eddie Trujillo, Adriano Dos Santos, picture. Well, that's 6.
So,
wow.
for those of you who
look, I don't know if you guys know this, but Dos Santos is a doctor outside of this. So he was just performing checkups.
Well, as long as Taylor Bond didn't get charged for it, I mean.
Oh my God!
There we go.
all right, that I can't look at that anymore.
All right,
Yeah,
let's focus. Let's focus.
Focus. What are you talking about?
So,
I thought we were wasting time till Eric came on.
well, no, I have some kind of important stuff I want to go over.
Yeah,
So
see, Matt.
Erik Bergrud will be on somewhere between 9 and 9:30, between 15 and 45 minutes. He said he's going to shoot for closer to 9, but he can guarantee to be here by 9:30. We are not going to talk any playoff except for that word that I just said until he gets here. What I would like to do. What?
Are we allowed to recap?
Yes. But while let me go on my broadcast rants.
Oh, right.
Plea here first. So first of all, and I know Jonathan's in the chat. I know Philly's going to be watching this. I would absolutely tell this to you guys to your faces in complete friendship, critique style. That first game was rough, man. So we had 5 Ontario games, Wednesday through Sunday. The first one, there were a lot of video issues, and I know that wasn't the broadcasters' issues the announcers. That was the production team. I heard there was a upscale issue. That video quality 100% fixed by Thursday. Wednesday night's game, like Phillies, I'm gonna make sure I can see my camera. Phillies like energy level is way up here, and Jonathan was way down here. And these guys, it was the first time they ever done it. But by Sunday, it was like here. And Philly just has that personality. He's always going to be more energetic, based on the chat we had with him in the podcast and things I've seen. His energy level is just over and above. But I want to give a huge congratulations to these guys, Philly and Jonathan, and Panda when she was on the sidelines, for the growth that they did across 5 games.
Yeah.
Like it was very, very rough on Wednesday night, and it was so natural I didn't even really notice by Sunday. It was engaging. It was informative. We had slippery balls. I mean, how can you not?
Yeah, I mean that there's bonus points there.
Yeah. And so amazing job. That said, the video still needs some work. The quality was amazing Thursday night on, but some of these camera angles, like I think it was Thursday night's game, I actually had to turn off in the first quarter because so I've been fighting a migraine like all week. Maybe it was Friday night's game. I've been fighting a sinus headache and migraine all week, and just the constant camera angles, like to the camera guy, dude, you are not going to win a Oscar or a Tony or Emmy or whatever they give away for producer of the year. You're not going to win one of those on these broadcasts. So just stay to the middle camera and use the side cameras and all the weird angles for replays. Like nobody watches indoor soccer at a field level. So don't use that camera for like minutes at a time. And by Sunday, it was much better. It was, but it's just hard to follow a play when they're running down the field and bam, the camera switches from the overhead angle to the on-field angle, then to the corner angle, then to the overhead angle again. It's just, it wasn't enjoyable for me. So I actually had to turn that game off. I don't know if I'll go back to watch it. Probably not because Florida won. So I'll probably.
Yeah, it was, I mean, Wednesday night was interesting because they kept putting up like a screen that said game day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, we know it's game day. Just show it once. That's fine. I noticed they did a lot of like replays during the game. And this was kind of, Utica's known for this as well.
Yeah.
Where they'll still be playing, but they'll put a replay up during the gameplay. That a minor pet peeve of mine. I would rather see the live play and then go back.
That's an outdoor thing, I think, because there's
I was
so
gonna
much
say that.
time between the time, like it goes out of
Right.
bounds.
Yeah, because
You
it's
can
a
run 5
bigger
replays
field.
on the same shot before the ball gets back to midfield.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, I think hold the replays until the end of the play or a whistle or something like that. But I mean, overall, the audio was great. Philly and Jonathan did great. Panda did great. Much better than the Kansas City broadcasters. Hey.
Speaking of Kansas City broadcasters.
I saw him join. I'm like, I'll just throw that in there.
So
No, but I think they did a great job, especially like by Sunday. It was just so natural for them. So
yeah.
I'm just glad to see another pair of announcers that I can really enjoy listening to.
Yeah, and it was great. I think Philly and Jonathan talked to Erik. Maybe it was Thursday night or Thursday afternoon or something. It was after their first game.
The Jedi Master.
Hey, the Panda carries them. Just get that.
Oh, we all know that. We don't tell them that.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
All right.
So Erik, you kind of came at a weird time because I'm going to do a plea to the MASL and I don't want to make it seem like I'm kissing up to you.
Do I need to leave?
Kind of, yeah. No, that's
I'll just take a nap.
You'll like this, Erik. You'll like this.
Yeah. So this season has been full of changes, obviously. We went from 24 games down to 12 really early on before anyone played. Went from 12 down to 10. We went from 7 teams with maybe 7 arenas down to 4. And then all of a sudden Ontario opened up again, completely unexpected, at least to the fans. I don't know how, if they were planning that all along. So I am asking, I am begging, I am pleading for the league to make one more change. And this will be in the betterment of the sport. And this will be to be able to market the sport better. Move the finals, the championships back to Kansas City. Have those games in Kansas City. Now, my reasons why, and of course, because I write everything on one note and everything seems like work, I wrote a lot of notes to this and bullet points and things. I don't have any slides or presentations, but didn't want to go into that. But so St. Louis, so backstep, the All-Star game in Kansas City. I know Brian Budzinski was talking about wanting to make it this like big media event that they could use footage from that to market the sport and to make it better and things. Kansas City, the perfect turf, the perfect camera angles, the perfect quality, obviously the perfect announcers. the main guy's a little better than the color guy, but we'll give him a break on that one.
Wow.
I don't want to really make this negative about others as much as positive, but St. Louis, they still can't get their picture in focus most of the time. The other night, I'm sitting here squinting, and I'm like, I call my wife, and I'm like, "Is this picture blurry?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, well, no wonder my head hurts. I'm trying to watch this broadcast. The turf isn't in the greatest shape. There's like some weird gaps in there, and the cameraman just can't follow the action. Like it's oh wait, it's over here. No, it's over there. And then even with they've been averaging 1,000 fans. I think they had 2,000 the other night. It seems really empty because it is a bigger arena, and it just when you're watching on TV, it seems empty. Maybe in person it seems better, but on TV it seems empty. Ontario, the broadcast team, obviously brand new. They've gone from 10% to 95% in 5 games. I'll give that to them. But I think they're just the cameraman especially doesn't have the indoor soccer experience, and there's no fans.
There's no fans. That's the huge thing. There needs to be fans there.
I would still put them right now as second broadcast in the league, without a doubt, without even a question. KC, best audio and video in the game, best announcing team, obviously. And even with only 1,000 fans in the arena, the way that the arena is shaped, and we were there, Matt. Sorry, Gio.
Yeah, we were there.
It seems fuller. It seems more energetic. And some of the shots from field level, you can tell there's not a lot of people there, but you can hear the ambience in the crowd and in the noise. And if you want to sell a product, obviously you're never going to sell Florida's product. You could probably sell Ontario's. St. Louis, you could probably get away with, but if you really want to make the product shine and use this season as a way to sell Facebook pay-per-view, online streams, games, and getting more fans in and going there, move the championship games to Kansas City. There's my plea.
And plus, so are the games one day? Like, are the semifinals one day?
Do you want to jump into that, or do you want to? I can
Well,
walk.
the reason why I ask is because all of the games are in Kansas City. So let's say, for example, Ontario faces Kansas City. It's going to be in St. Louis, or if it's Tacoma versus San Diego, they're all going to be in Ontario. So there's travel costs and stuff like that. Just have it in one place.
So I'm not privy to what the owners discussed, but I'll tell you where they landed, right? So there's going to be 2-game plus mini game scenarios all the way through. So we're going to be hosting here in Kansas City 2-leg semifinals, April 1st and 3rd. And so Nick and I will.
It is it's best of 3 in the semifinals as well. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I just shared a state secret, but so it will be Thursday game, Saturday game, mini game if it's tied 1-1 for each.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. Okay.
I think I knew that. It didn't.
It was on the announcement.
I might have known that, but
The news press that came out was written either, and I hate to insult whoever wrote this, especially if it was Ken. Sorry, Ken. It was either written by like a middle schooler or a lawyer, like nowhere in between, because it was just vague enough that you didn't get all 7 teams are making the playoffs. You just had to figure that out based on the weird scenarios they had set up.
Yeah, I don't know what will, if there's going to be an ESPN 30 for 30 after the fact, or we can talk about MASL 2021. Here's what really happened. My appreciation for the league has grown significantly this year. Just all the things they got thrown with.
Yeah.
And yeah, they made a lot of choices, but if you get out of the construct of we're comparing this with X being the NFL or whatever else, think about a bunch of small business owners in the middle of COVID that are trying to figure out how do we keep our employees paid? How do we keep open? How do we look forward to life in a post-COVID world? If you think about them like that, rather than comparing to some artificial thing like the NFL, NBA, even MLS, maybe there's a little more empathy for some of the things they tried. Go in your neighborhood, think about the small business owners around you, the restaurant owners,
Oh, yeah.
and all the different things they've tried. Why aren't people, not remember to phrase that, why aren't more people showing empathy for the Shelley Clarks of the world, et cetera, who have tried because they want to make sure that their guys have a place to play, that fans, to the extent it's safe, have something to do in the midst of all this. I get the frustration out there. I get the Baltimore frustration. I get the Milwaukee frustration. I understand that. These owners made another choice. And I think that history is going to be kind to them in terms of the choice they made, with all the bumps along the way.
Well, and on top of that too, it's the choices the teams who didn't play had to make of, like, can we survive if we don't play? Can we be stronger if we don't play? Can we be relevant if we don't play? Can we retain all of our players that we're going to be loaned out that we have no control over if we don't play? I mean, there's a lot of things there that, and I know a lot of these teams basically shut down when during the off season, as far as true indoor MASL, like Wave and Blast and a number of other teams have camps and things like that. And the players will coach, but there are some that the players go off to wherever they go to, and they don't come back until October, November. So I think that's it's definitely been interesting for sure. We're here to make fun of and support the league all in one time, with calling out things and supporting things. So if we see something that we don't like, we'll call it out, but then we'll talk about the stuff we do like. Sometimes, most of the time.
I think we do a great job supporting the league as far as like putting it like in the positive light, but at the same time criticizing certain things. And it's not like, me personally, I love the fact that the league played. I hate the fact that Baltimore didn't play, but
Sure.
I love the fact that the league continued to play. And like I said a couple episodes ago, where I said I'm okay with it being called the Ron Newman Cup, whatever, it is what it is, because it's for the players at the end of the day, right? It's for the teams that were able to push their team forward through this league, whether or not it's a 7 league year or a 15, 20 team year. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I mean, if we're really going to look at the 80s, MISL played half the time with like 10 teams or less. So why not just give it to the players?
Yeah, I think that, well, Nick and I are very excited about the semis because the quality of the play is going to be intense. Well, not only the quality is going to be great, the drama is going to be there. It's going to be intense on the field, and we're excited, looking forward to that. And who really knows, other than Geo's sidekicks going all the
That's
way,
right.
all anything could happen.
I hate
That's
to
right.
break it to you, Gio, but
That
unless
is
they do the
going
thing
to
we
happen.
talked about,
Look.
unless Dallas does the thing we talk about where they sign all the Wave and Blast and Utica players, I don't think that's going to happen, man.
You
No,
mean
I think it's a little too late at this
a
point.
few players that are left?
Yeah.
First of all, I love the sidekicks. I love their social.
Yeah.
Players are very engaging. We've had great conversations, Freddie in particular, but I caught DeSouza trying to get worked on before the game, and he was just extremely humble about possibly winning the goal scoring title. So yeah, I feel badly for them. I've supported teams in the past that have been at the bottom, and it's very painful for fans and players alike. But who knows?
It's not the player's fault. Anyways,
Well, right.
You don't know my feelings towards that, but we don't have
I do.
And-
I hear you.
And everything we talk about, and I want to say this like at least once a show, and I know I've forgotten a bunch of shows. Everything we talk about, every time I make fun of Florida or I say they should be out of the league, it's absolutely not the players. It's how things are done, how things are ignored, how whatever. But for the players, I wish we could have a 48,000 team league with all the players on it, and every team plays. It would be a really long season, but everybody
That's
plays
all
everybody
year.
else, and just all of the things that we all talk about. And one of the things we'll never make fun of the league for is like financial things. Like, we know there's no way you're going to play a 48 team or a 48 game round robin season against every single team in the league. It's just there's no money there. We know you're not going to pay your players $1 million each a year because there's just not the money there. But there are some things when I say, Eric, and you and I kind of talked about, maybe there should be my suggestion has been like, do a conference call with the announcers of both teams, or the announcers and representatives from both teams, and just say, how do you pronounce Leyte? Or
is it Liete?
It's Leyte. It's absolutely Leyte. So for years, I've thought it was Leyte and Viega, but they're spelled the same. But I don't know anything about Portuguese. I don't know if it's Brazilian names are spelled and pronounced differently, because I have Granatella. It's just all A's. Just put some random letters in between and you got it. But I found out recently it is Vega, so it's pronounced exact. Leyte, Vega, that's it. But names like Sam Guernsey this year, and especially when it's like your own team. And this is one of my pet peeves, but there's a number of things that fall into that. Let's talk about playoffs and game recaps and things. I don't think we should recap each individual game. Let's put those into the playoff talk. Does that sound decent?
Hey, before we go into anything, can I ask Eric? Did you buy your own jersey for $400? I'm just curious.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so mad about this.
Yeah, me too.
It wasn't my mother. I don't know whether the person wants it to be public, so I figured the person can just say I was the one who did
But
it.
you know who it is?
Oh, I know who it is, and I got a message during the game, and so it was pretty wild because you guys were trying to figure who's bidding on what. And then all of a sudden, it's like done. It's sold.
I had
the other day, and crazy
because I had the high bid. So and I was poking fun at Casey's social media, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, my jersey sold for $400. I'm like, when did that happen?
Yeah.
Crazy. And so, we found out today that they raised over $4,800 for Team Fidelis. That's fantastic. And so in particular to you, Matt, if you hadn't said anything, my jersey wouldn't have been there. Bassos's jersey wouldn't have been there. And then Scott Levinson just kicked through his up, and I think his sold for $130. And so between the three of us, what? Or $730 extra. Yeah. That's fantastic. So thank you.
Yeah, I absolutely. That's awesome. I think that's
so.
It's good that you guys had jerseys available.
I personally helped raise $100, but I did not win a jersey. So when it came down to the time, so Matt, when you said 6 minutes left, I was in just a daze. I had finished. So I watched the Casey game first, and then watched the next game at the Tacoma San Diego game after. Even though I knew what the score was, Gio, wasn't your fault. I already found out online like 3 different times. So you did not spoil the game for me, so don't worry about that. But Matt's like 6 minutes left. I'm like, 6 minutes for what? I'm in my Sunday night wind down time. I'm like, oh crap, the jersey auctions. So I run over there, and then I found out that
no, don't get distracted. Don't get distracted.
So covering out the screen. So I was like, okay, what do I want to bid on? And there was like 4 minutes left at this point, and I favorited like a whole bunch of them, and then like Leo's sold right away, so I marked him off the list. Somebody else went over 200. Okay, no, it's John Sosa. Yeah, that's funny.
I was Hopper who bought that one, right?
So, and then Matt's like, well, I'm bidding on Nick. So I'm like, all right, well, I realized the three of us might get into a bidding war on the same jersey. So I'm like, all right, I'm stepping away from Nick's jersey. I'm going to let Matt have it. So I'm like, okay, we're down to Adam James because he has obviously the coolest name in the league, and Scott Levinson because I thought that was really cool. And that was actually the cheapest jersey at the time. Not that really factored in, but I'm like, I kind of want Adam James's jersey. Let's go. So I unfavorited every other one, went into Matt's, hit bid, instantly outbid. I'm like, do I want to do this?
Yeah.
And all right, I'll put 200 as my max. I bid again. And this time it was already in overtime. So it's not like eBay where you can just swipe in at the last second and just steal the bid, which I tried to do because I didn't realize there was an overtime. But so if you bid with less than 1 minute left, it gives you another minute. And we went from 150 to 250. And the thing that got me to stop was it started doing $20 increments at that point. I'm like, well, I'm not doing 270. I would do 260, but I'm not doing, I just talked myself out of it. So I'm like, all right, fine. So whoever got Adam James, thank you for the additional $100 donation. Hope you enjoy the jersey.
I lost all my bids. I had placed maybe 6 bids.
Well,
and I walked away and I returned to a message from Matt saying 6 minutes left an hour ago.
oh, whoops.
I was like, oh God.
I had to stay up because that happened in Kansas City when we did the All-Star game. It ended late and we're like I had 1% battery left when I was at the arena, and then we ran back to the hotel and I'm like, oh, there's 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
So I had to run back, charge in my phone, and it was super late. So
I had Ian's and Alex Bradley's jersey up until 5 minutes left.
Yep.
And somebody outbid me on Ian's. I'm like, all right, sorry, I gotta let it go because I don't want to go home and tell my wife I just spent $500 on jerseys, on two jerseys.
Well, so, the comments, because last year the military appreciation game was the season finale and it was canceled because of COVID. We did the auction afterwards, just kind of like, hey, help us out. And I was trying to bid on jerseys because a lot of them weren't going. The season's done, right? And so I have somewhere behind me Lucas Sosa's from last year. So it is a great cause. I'm glad they did that. And the support, particularly if you remember where we started the season, I was on before the All-Star game. The whole pay-per-view thing was starting to create waves, no pun intended, Adam, among the MASL faithful. We didn't know how this year was going to go, but the response yesterday on the auction was, I thought, really impressive because in a normal year, you'd have a lot of people in the arena with their phones bidding it up, and we were at partial capacity yesterday. So I don't know where it landed between people at home or online watching, but the bids were great.
Yeah, here's what I think. I think the people that got loaned out this season, I think the teams that got them should maybe auction off their jerseys, like a Ben Raymond San Diego Sockers jersey or a Dominic Francis Kansas City Comets, like a regular jersey, something like that. I think that would be great. I definitely would get something like a Nate Bordeaux Florida Tropics one, because you don't see it.
But did you notice Mike DeSilva's was the first jersey that sold?
Yeah, I was like, a Blast fan got that. I mean, it's that was done. And then Francis's went high. So I figured, okay, somebody in Harrisburg moved that up. So, yeah. And then Togbaz was pretty high, too. I think he finished at 2, something like that.
Someone snipe Marquez from me.
Yeah, his so 330 it ended at.
Yeah.
Someone sniped Eric's off me, but
yeah.
Oh well.
It was fun. It was fun though. It was definitely something fun to do while watching such a great game.
I'll spill the beans because I still may do it in the future, but my plan this year was to get a Tropics jersey with the number 1 on it and corn dog on the back of it, because that's where it all started. That was the origin of the whole thing. And I talked to them back it was after the All-Star game, but before Christmas, probably mid-December. And I said, are you going to have customized jerseys? He said, yep, after the first of the year. And I said, okay, let me know, or I'll keep buying you. And I messaged him a couple of weeks ago, and no, we're still expecting, or maybe early February. No, we're still expecting a couple of weeks. And they just never did it. And I'm assuming now it's not going to happen just because there's not enough time. But that was my plan. So maybe next year.
You want to talk Florida's chances in the playoffs?
Let's okay. Let's
Well,
switch.
I think I can answer that in one simple answer. Hannah picked Florida. Enough said.
For the championship?
Yeah.
So
Why would
I
you even
haven't
talk?
seen.
Let's just end the show right now.
So here. And my disclaimer again. When I say things like this, I don't say anything bad about the players themselves. But Florida is at another level right now. Their dismantling of every team in the last couple of games was more than impressive.
Yeah.
Because it
They
didn't look
played.
like
They played great this weekend. Holy
it didn't
moly!
look like they tried, and it looked like everything clicked. All the chemistry was there, and just like blew me away as far as how good they are. So somebody asked me, well, do you think San Diego can take Florida in the playoffs? And I said, if San Diego can't score 4 goals in the first half, no, not a chance. And because the way that Florida just shut down in the second half against Ontario was just amazing.
Yeah.
I think what makes these playoffs a little bit more interesting, other than you pick your opponent, right, is in a way it's more like NCAA basketball that you know you're going to be playing your games away from campus. And so how do you manage that?
Yep.
And it's not NCAA where it's a one game and you're out. It's 2 games, but plus a potential mini game. And so how are teams going to manage the travel? What does home field look like? Whether or not Kansas City's there for the semis?
Yeah.
What does it look like in the finals?
Hey, before we get to this, can I do something real quick? Guys, quick timeout.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
All right, we couldn't resist, Eric.
All right. And
Awesome.
there we go.
What are you doing? What? Yep.
So for those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, Eric mentions like every time someone has a top of the arc restart, especially if it's Kansas City, now would be a perfect time to do a timeout. So we kind of behind the scenes here said when Eric comes on, we just
And,
gotta.
you know, I'm going to admit, like, if I notice a change in momentum, I'm sitting at home going, "Oh, timeout." There's got to be a timeout somewhere. So, I completely agree with what he does.
No, but when Eric says it, I mean they are key points because like the top of the arc or wherever, whenever he says it, it's like a great moment for a timeout. But half these teams don't use them.
They don't do it. Florida does it. I've seen Nick Pereira start to do it a little bit more. It just there's so many shots that get sent up into the net. If you have the opportunity to create a play, and what I would say is with boards with glass up this year, it's changed some of the it's definitely changed the flow of the game, but it's changed some of the strategy of the game. You don't have nearly as many top of the arc restarts as you used to,
Right.
with defenders sending balls out. And so, I mean, for me, these are more important maybe than they were in the past. If you used to get 6 or 7 a game, you're getting 2 or 3 now. It just a little bit different. The other thing, since you asked me about it during the game, Adam, I reached out to the MASL referee forum.
Yeah.
For the second quarter of the Sidekicks Comets game, there was a delayed 2-minute penalty call against the Comets. And so back in the old days, teams would go 6 attacker on a delayed 2. And I checked it. You can go 6 attacker the whole game.
Okay. Yep.
So, but the rules are a little bit more complex, and sometimes people don't know. I don't even know what some of the latest rules are, and so trying to manage all that. For me, if I were owner of a new franchise, that would probably be the first thing I would focus a lot of attention on. Is somebody referee will pay you to come and walk us through the entire rule book. How can we leverage things? How can we get the best advantage?
Yeah. So another interesting thing that came up, and I think Craig Giles is the one who figured this out. When there's a delayed penalty and you go on 6th attacker, the goalie doesn't have to get to the box for the sixth attacker to come out. As long as the goalie is making the rules, and I read the rules a couple of years ago, and I don't know if it's still in there, but as long as the goalie is making a run towards the box, the sixth attacker can come out with no jersey on. And a number of teams have struggled over the years. Not that I haven't seen anything this year, but a number of teams have struggled over the years because they look for the sixth attacker jersey and try to get it. And then someone will bring up the obscure rule of, oh, they don't actually have to do that. And I found it really interesting. I think Craig Chuck, because it happened in San Diego and they noticed it. And I think it was Pardo came off. It might've been Toth at that time. And somebody came on and the refs called a too many men penalty. And Craig Shaw was like, no, it's absolutely not a penalty. And I think they figured it out at the end, but they ruined the flow of the game anyway. So, you ruin that sixth attacker thing.
I don't know how widely it got spread, but I remember us all being at the All-Star game, and the rumor was they were going to change the goalkeeper rule to make it futsal-less so the goalie couldn't even go over the yellow line. And I thought, why would you destroy St. Louis's game and keeping Paulo locked back there? And so I'm glad they didn't do that. Are there rule changes that could happen between now and next year? Sure, anything's possible, but I'm glad that one didn't happen.
Yeah.
You guys talking about the sixth attacker and everything just reminded me, Eric, you mentioned how about Florida. Something I want to point out with Florida, one, they came to something to prove this weekend, but something that they did that just left me in awe was there was this play where I can't remember who was running it down the side, gave a through ball to an empty space, quickly jumped in the back door, and Alvarez jumped out the front door and picked up the ball. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, Florida is on another level right now. And it was against Fury. And Fury, the thing with Fury is they respected Florida too much. And Florida was like, we're going at you. And that's, to me, that's what Fury's weakness is when teams go at them. So just to watch that happen, I was like, oh man, it's going to be interesting to see who plays them in the playoffs.
What I respected about the game plan the Tropics put in place is they went high press early, which is Ontario's signature. Ontario is going to rattle you. They're going to come high press. Florida rattled Ontario and then decided, okay, we're up by 3. Let's pull it back. And Ontario just couldn't find any open passing lanes. I think that the game plan against Frank Tayu was really smart.
Mm-hmm.
He got bottled up. Ontario needs space.
Yeah.
But you get if they're healthy. Well, I mean, we can go quarterfinals, finals, semifinals, finals.
Yeah.
I wouldn't write off Ontario yet. I mean,
Of course not.
I don't think you can write off any team as of yet, right? I mean,
sidekicks.
well, okay. Well, let me back up.
Back up.
Write off every team except the Dallas Sidekicks.
But why? They've given all the teams a good game.
But Kansas City seems to have blown them out every single game.
One of the funniest things to watch was Jonathan and Philly last night. Well, the Dallas Sidekicks has a 2-0 lead, and they're like, oh, it's a long game, it's indoor soccer, anything can happen, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, now Kansas City has 7 unanswered. I guess things aren't going to go that well.
Yeah, but I mean, so we'll assume Dallas isn't in good form, but I mean, you have San Diego, you've got Pardo, Vanzella, Tacoma has Waltman, Toth, anything is possible, and it's going to be interesting to see who each team picks. I think Ontario is going to pick Dallas, but
I think we'll have answers tomorrow. So we're finalizing I think it'll be a Facebook Live at 3 Central.
Okay.
So the goal is to have Nick and me on, Coach Leo Gibson, Brian Budzinski. We'll see how it plays out. Obviously, we'll let you know if that changes, but I think tomorrow we'll be able to say, all right, what did Ontario do, and then what's Kansas City going to do?
Can you make it 3:30? I have it. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
So the question I have, because technically there's one more game left. And if San Diego wins, so right now the standings are set except for 5th and 6th.
Right.
If San Diego wins, they could flip spots with Tacoma.
Yeah, but it won't change anything.
It doesn't matter because
It doesn't matter.
Ontario can pick whomever they want of those teams. And then Kansas City will say, okay, fine, regardless of what happens between San Diego and Dallas. If,
So I have a question, right, Eric, Mr. Sensei. Can Ontario pick Kansas City?
the way I understand it, no. The way I read it was that second picks a team and then third gets to pick the next team. So I'm not a lawyer, but that seems to me that they're telling the second place team you can't pick number 3.
Right.
I mean, even if they could, I don't think Ontario would pick Kansas.
Right. No, this is just a what if.
I don't think they would.
So my what if was, what if Ontario wants to wait and see the San Diego Dallas game this weekend and see, let's say Dallas wins.
I don't think they're going to wait.
Okay.
No, I don't think so either. I really don't want to face Vanzella.
I figured there was no way it was going to happen, but I just thought of it today. I'm like, wait, technically they could wait until the season's over and pick, but yeah, I wouldn't think they would.
Well, I don't. We'll see what's there, and then we'll see what their decision making was, and then Kansas City's in response was, and then what happens to the 2 remaining teams? Okay, I guess we get each other. So
yeah. So before we start talking, do you have any inside information? I don't want to know what it is. I just don't want to know how much on the spot I should put you in some of these questions.
I can talk about hypothetical. We talked hypothetical matchups. Let me answer it this way. We talked hypothetical matchups throughout the game yesterday, and I felt pretty comfortable doing that.
Okay.
That was
good enough.
All right.
I just didn't want to say, do you think, like I've done this to my wife where I've asked her something in a movie she's seen. She's like, oh, I'm like, oh, you can't answer that because you know what's going to happen.
I'll be glad to talk about hypothetical, but I'm not going to reveal anything.
Okay. So team.
Hypothetically speaking.
Yeah. All right. One more question before we get into the actual pick. So the home team, is the home team for all 3 West Coast teams, or the home arena going to be Ontario?
Yeah, but here's where it gets tricky. If you've looked at what
Mr. Marquez is in the chat. Hey, how's it going? Thank you for joining.
Someone stole your jersey from me.
I'm not even going to talk about the Comets and where they're going, but it's funny that he's watching because he has more intel than I do. So, here's the trick. So the league has announced, well, I think I saw St. Louis announce 26, 27, 28 is first round weekend-ish, right? And that could adjust. But we'll talk about Kansas City. Kansas City has arena issues because there's a minor league hockey team, the Kansas City Mavericks, that has a lot of the dates locked down, including heading later into April, to answer your question, Adam, as to why the finals a week later aren't in Kansas City. Right. Comets have to play on the 26th.
Yeah.
All right. So and you've experienced the whole mini game phenomenon in Milwaukee multiple times. I think that Gio has in Baltimore. So the way it works is, theoretically, the lower seed team gets the first game. The higher seed team gets the second plus the mini game.
Right.
Comets have to forfeit that. So the Comets.
Yeah, Blast had to do that too a lot.
No, don't bring up. No.
No. Let me soak in this moment.
Yeah. So for Kansas City's perspective, they're going to have to win on the road, and they're going to have to play against an opponent that they think that they can win, if not the regular game, the mini game there. Okay.
Yeah.
Ontario is hosting multiple games. They've got to host a home game. San Diego and Tacoma get a home game.
Right.
And the combination of teams play against each other. Right. So Philly, you think about Philly, Jonathan, and the Panda, they're going to be busy with multiple games out there, right? But then there's some choices about how do we do all this? And then what days do the teams have locked down in their arenas? The one thing we know for sure is Florida's done playing at home this year.
Right.
Don't worry about them, but everybody else is sort of like arena availability.
Right. Did you see what Florida did to their turf?
I saw it.
I don't want to
Stay in the
picture.
positive.
No, we're not gonna mention it.
Yeah. For anyone that doesn't, go
positive.
look at actually, I think Alec posted it in the MSL in the Box group, or look at it on Facebook. They took the crappy turf and painted lines back on it. Now, maybe what that means is they realize this is the last season the turf has on it. So they just let the football team play on it and then replace it for the next year. But
Let me just, Adam, Florida turf. There we go.
do
Yeah.
you want to share that with Eric? I don't think he was able to see that.
This is my kid's new birthday toy that he played with all weekend.
It's awesome.
It does that.
It's awesome.
We've started a petition to change the corn dog to the
I don't
front
agree
run
with this.
from now on.
I don't agree with this.
So are you, okay, so let me just ask. So what matchup are you most excited about? Like if you were to pick two teams to go up against each other.
In the finals or at any?
I'm just saying in general, like.
Well,
So let's do our picks for the.
well,
who
so
we think is gonna pick.
I'll say this. Nick and I were really, really excited when Ontario was coming to town. And it was just weird how it played out because Tacoma was in Kansas City on a Friday and Tacoma beat the Comets again. And then it was like, holy cow, what's going to happen? Ontario just smoked St. Louis, and then here you go. That's a team we have a lot of respect for. So if we have the privilege in Kansas City of getting to see them again in a battle, you have the Palmers against each other. You've got the Tayus, and Nick and I have, a pretty strong relationship with the Tayus. You have two young Brazilian, or at least Brazilian-born goalkeepers.
Mm-hmm.
You have wave after wave of players coming on the Ontario side. You've got young guys like Rion, like Lucas Sosa on Kansas City. For me, that's like a dream matchup I would love to call. A lot of things could happen since we've already decided that Ontario can't pick Kansas City in the first round, right? Okay, first round, but would love to see that at some point.
That would be, that would be a great semifinal. Holy moly.
Who would you say Comets
Final.
are most likely to pick for the first round? Or who would you want to see? I know those are two different questions.
Right. What do you know, and what would you rather have?
Yeah.
Well, I got delayed because I got an update. I'll get to that later. There's an update on the goalkeeper rule. I'll have to send it to you, Milwaukee. I'll send it to you, Adam. I heard from MASL referees about goalkeeper substitution. So let me put a pin on that.
Sure.
So we talked on the air yesterday about some of the choices that Kansas City has to make, and so let's walk through the other. I mean, I can do this from Kansas City's perspective. It's a lot easier than it would be from anybody else. So again, Ontario picks first. Yeah, Dallas. You would say, okay, Kansas City would want to crack at Dallas. Kansas City beat them in the Central Cup, which by an unsanctioned competition. So don't want to hear anything from you guys. It's unsanctioned. So, and then beat them every time there as well as in Kansas City. However, They are a physical team, and so anybody who picks Dallas stands the possibility of being banged up headed into the semis. So, I mean, for me, that's a consideration. Is they're not going to just tank it for 2 games. They're going to play hard 2 games. They've got players who are physical. We saw Mike Jones and Mike DeSilva get into it on a couple games here. So that's a calculated risk. You might think, okay, fine, we'll win, but how many guys might we lose in the process? So that's Dallas. San Diego. So the Comets beat San Diego. San Diego, the current version of San Diego hasn't won in Kansas City. The challenge, though, for the Comets is you're playing a Friday night game here, and you would have to turn around and head to Ontario to beat San Diego there and or have to go to a mini game. And the same would hold with Tacoma. Challenge with Tacoma is now just like smack the Comets 2 games in a row. And so that's a consideration as well. Then you look east and you look at St. Louis. And so I was messing with Everton during the game because when it was 2-0, I was like, oh, maybe you get the choice. So who you choosing, right? He was waiting to see how he was going to respond to that. In this series between Kansas City and St. Louis, the home team has won every game the last several years. And I've said this multiple times on the air this year. I was at the game at the Family Arena in January. It was sort of like my birthday present. Comets should have won, gave it up. Ambush came back and won. And so there's some mental thing there, particularly since the Comets are giving up home field advantage. Mm-hmm. So that's something they would have to get past with a lot of those teams is we need to win it at home, and then we just have to be aggressive on the road. The Comets have not played tremendously well on road the last 2 years. I think this year's record is sort of masked by the fact that they played more of their games at home. But this is a team that should have won. They should have beaten Florida. Dead to rights the first game there. They should have beaten St. Louis at St. Louis, no doubt in my mind. And so they're definitely capable of doing what they can on the road. And then they've got a potential semifinal at home.
So do you think
Dallas is what he's saying?
I'm
sorry, San Diego.
Yeah,
San
yeah.
Diego.
Who actually makes the decisions between the teams, between who they choose? Is it all the way up to the front office type decision, or is it the coaches and the players that make the decision?
Well, I'm hoping so. It would have been a crazy day. I talked a bit to Brian Budzinski today, and then Nick and I were texting back and forth. We still haven't landed on what this show's going to look like, but I'm hoping the process will be discussed.
Yeah.
Of okay, how did the Comets land at X? And go there. But I mean, the one thing I try to do on air, although I was joking with San Diego because they were playing at the same time, is if we're going to talk about who the Comets should play against, that could easily become bulletin board material. And I don't want to be the one to say, hey, this is the best matchup, because I've already given you a reason why Dallas gives me pause.
Sure, yeah.
San Diego's a 14-time champion. And regardless of how they've been playing right now, let me just say that the Sockers fans that are sitting there and saying, when was the last time we've lost 4 in a row? And they're bemoaning. And I'm thinking to myself, I've watched the San Diego Sockers since I was, I don't know, this tall. And how many times did my team get kicked by them, embarrassed by them, no mercy rule in effect? So I'm kind of feeling to myself, I don't really have a lot of empathy at this point.
I'm the same way with Baltimore.
That being said, they're the San Diego Sockers, and this is the Ron Newman Cup. Regardless of what one or two of you think, this is the Ron Newman Cup.
It's only one.
San Diego wants to win the Ron Newman Cup. It's like, this is our cup, right?
If you haven't read Craig Elston's column, and this is the people in the chat, because I know you probably have, Nick or Eric, Craig Elston writes a column for MASL, Craig's Corner, and he's been calling St. Louis. Geez, I can't even get my names right today. He's been calling St. Louis team interesting because he doesn't know what they're going to do, and that's my word for San Diego. Because on paper, San Diego should be winning their games.
Yeah, but
and
that's
they
on
should
paper.
be. What?
That's on paper. It's the problem with San Diego is they're not fitting their pieces together, right? Like, for example, Vanzella is great and all, but he doesn't fit their system.
Right.
He's used to a disciplined defense, right? He's not used to having his defenders become forwards and then having a midfielder there that doesn't know how to defend, and he's supposed to know that he has to step up. He's not Pardo. He's not used to that. So, like, the game against it was against Tacoma. He just got furious. He just got super furious because his system, what he's been doing for years, he's trying to do there, and it's not going to work. So that's why when Matt mentions they have Vanzella, I was like, yeah, they have Vanzella, but not his whole system.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean the defenders aren't the same.
Well, I'll take you back to a 1-4 Kansas City team earlier this year. San Diego came in for their first game, and the Comets were on their heels. Then they find out that there's 8 guys going through COVID protocol, and the numbers kept. We had to change the script because the numbers kept going up when we were at the arena.
Wow.
And the young guys came through for the Comets. And I think for me, that showed a couple interesting things. One is what has made Kansas City fun to watch this year is the young talent that they brought in. I think that you saw last year the vestiges of a team that was really, really good in the last decade. And what you see is a different team this year. They're younger, they're faster, they're hungrier, and they're exciting to watch. Contrast it with San Diego that doesn't want to run a lot. And for me, I know you've talked about chemistry a lot, Gio. For me, it may be that it's become a young man's game. And the lesson for Kansas City last year was it's become a young man's game. And so we need to get younger. And that was the contrast for me when San Diego came to Kansas City was you've got some absolute great guys who are veterans. And you've got a bunch of young guys that are going to run around like crazy. And the young guys won that game. And so San Diego's made a couple interesting moves this past week to bring in a few players. They need to score some more goals. But a team that's going to press them hard, a team that's going to make them run, could create some interesting mismatches.
They have 2 weeks left to be able to sign people.
Go ahead, Adam.
I was going to say they still have 2 weeks left if they want to sign anybody else.
I'm not sure they're done, but I mean, just based on what I've heard, we'll see. But they need to score goals. If you look at their goals against average, they're great. Absolutely great, and they're solid in the back. I mean, I if you were to ask me who's on my top team, Escoto is up there in my consideration for first team. I mean, we could talk about that too, but the expectations going into the season, I think you can safely say that Sockers haven't reached people's expectations for them. I thought Tacoma, based on particularly what I saw in the All-Star game, was going to be at or near the top. I'm not sure, and for different reasons they have problems, but they haven't reached expectations. Florida definitely has reached expectations. Ontario has reached my expectations. Kansas City, I didn't know what to expect with a bunch of young guys come in, so I would say Kansas City has maybe exceeded my expectations. St. Louis probably where I thought they would be. Because they're going to get better. They're better than they were last year. Getting Max, definite help. We expected them to move up. They're probably the team that are where I thought they would be.
And it's interesting to see, they've been playing without Max and they've been doing very well without him, right?
Kochekov's been scoring like crazy. He's been, I think, probably their MVP. I still don't know why people let Paolo take shots in the fourth quarter. That's beyond me.
Yeah.
But they're going to give somebody an interesting matchup in that quarterfinal.
Yeah, for sure. I think Tacoma though. It's like you see a glimpse of it. It's like Tacoma is the same team from last year, regardless of who they have, because they'll have games where they play very well, and then they go back to that. This is not the same team.
You never know what you're going to get with them, and it's really weird. It's sometimes they do the tic-tac-toe pass all the way down the field, and they get 5, in-air volleys with a header goal, and sometimes they can't pass back to the goalkeeper without making him run 20 feet to one side and missing the next pass.
Well, and their goalkeeping's exceptional. And I would say that if you watch their games, their goalkeepers have kept them in games they shouldn't have been in.
Yep.
But they also have, Dantas he's getting back into his form, which is dangerous. Pereira, some of the passes he made in Ontario are just unbelievable, right? Well, I can't say enough about Ramos. I think he's the guy to watch if the playoff run is that midfield play. And I would say the same thing about Kansas City is the big difference for me in Kansas City. Sure, they have guys scoring goals up front like Marquez and James, but it's the midfield. It's getting Ramon Palmer back off the visa problem. It's getting Lucas Sosa off his visa problem.
Yeah.
He has been the difference this year.
Kansas City reminds me of the 2013 to 2015 team where they were just dominating everything. They had endless energy, exceptional goalkeeping, and just like, how do you beat this team? It's just.
Yeah, anyone can have a great night. You can't focus on one person. Like Ontario has Frank Tayu. Okay, Kansas City has Adam James. All right, shut him down. But you have so many other options.
And teams are playing different. I know that Rion's watching this. It's been interesting the last couple of games seeing how teams play Marquez, similarly to seeing how teams play Tayu and how there's a defensive adjustments. The opportunity for a Marquez, and Nick Pereira does this really well, is if you're playing back to the goal and they put one or two defenders off you and you have midfielders who can run off you, you could be extremely potent as a target forward. And so I look to see, and this was part of the comeback against Ontario, is Sosa to Marquez, Sosa laying off and them connecting and scoring. And so it's not just the goals that a Marquez or a Frank Tayu or a Nick Pereira can score. It's how do they make other teams change their defensive mindset, and how do you get midfielders to run off of them?
Yep.
Yeah, I completely agree. I do Nick, man. There was the one game he pretty much was pulling Tacoma in the game. Like he literally, if his passes weren't flawless, his shots were the only thing going in for the team. He's a phenomenal player, but I feel like Dantas is finding, like you said, he's finding his form again. But not just Ramos, but also Keith. He's a great player.
I was gonna say, from what we saw in the All-Star game and from what we saw in a couple games here and there, Keith has the ability to win a playoff game by himself.
You guys too, but I think just because you guys talk about and with Derek Huffman a lot, so I feel like it's a good time to mention this. So go back to the All-Star game. You mentioned Keith there, but his fair critique about Pereira and Gibson and like, hey, what do they have to do, et cetera. If you've watched the last couple weeks of MASL and you've watched what Gibson's done as a player and as a coach, as a player in Kansas City, and watch what Pereira's done for Tacoma.
Oh, yeah.
They can definitely play. That Ontario game for Kansas City, Leo Gibson decided, I've got to be the guy. And he stepped up. And just watching Pereira this past week in Ontario, he knows when he's going to have to be in there. Great. Have they used defensive runners? Sure, but Gibson's not using a defensive runner this year. In fact, sometimes he's playing defense. And so
he played sixth attacker.
Playing sixth attacker. So
He did.
Perhaps there was 2019-20 criticism that was fair. But I've seen them change their games. And I'd say another one that you guys love talking about and Huff likes talking about is John Sosa. John Sosa, the last, I don't know, 4 games has been absolutely critical to the Comets' success.
Oh yeah.
Critical.
Just makes it easier not to like him. I mean,
hey, Central Cup next year, it's going to be awesome.
yeah, right. Hopefully he doesn't get suspended for the first game. So let me just straight out ask this. The reason I kind of asked who is involved in the choices before, if you are Lane Smith, do you allow your 2 teams to play each other in the first round of the playoffs?
Well, that assumes that Lane Smith makes the call for both teams. I don't know how to answer that question.
Right. And I thought,
Question.
I don't think there's any way that KC would pick Tacoma as it is.
No way.
But just based on play and how they match up and everything. But I just thought about that. Like, would an owner let himself play his own team?
I think that's a fair question. I will tell you where I was in my head yesterday, and it wasn't because Gio. I think it was first Gio and then Brad Crossley was like, they got to play San Diego. Because Kansas City has the first game at home and they're going to have to win on the road. In a normal setting, right? In a normal year, if you have the top seed, you can lose at home, come back, win that second game, and then win the mini game. So you don't need to lose it. You don't need to win it on the road. Comets absolutely have to win on the road. And so for me, the calculation is where's the best chance to win on the road?
Right.
And that's a very different calculation than what Tacoma has to make. Tacoma's not playing in Kent. They're playing home games in Ontario, road games somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So it's different for them.
So I guess every team's going to play Dallas. So
Right. The good thing is Dallas is going to make the championship game.
That's
the
right.
Bad news is they're going to lose every round against every other team.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I think what's interesting then is Florida is sitting back and watching all this, right?
Right.
And they're not going to make a decision yet. But if you start thinking about who could be there, and keep in mind, it's in Kansas City.
Right.
Right. Right.
that's a pick.
So if the Comets are still there, I would. Although with Florida, you never know. Florida could just say, hey, we're Florida. We beat everybody. We'll just take the Comets and go with it. But let's just say they're like, now we want to do it. I wouldn't see Florida picking Ontario because I mean, Ontario, for me, has given Florida more trouble than anybody else this year.
Yeah.
So potentially it's Team X that Florida gets. And then if for some reason Ontario and Kansas City make it there, they're a logical matchup. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see how predictable this round is in selections and then that round.
Yeah. I mean, for the first round, I can't see any way. Now, I say this fully in the back of my head going, but it's the MASL, but it's the MASL. So keep in mind, say that 100 times while you hear me say this. I can't see any way that Ontario does not pick Dallas.
Can I give you a reason why I would challenge that?
Yes, absolutely.
So here it is. We're in the year 2021. We are not in the year 2020, 2019, or whatever. So if you're Ontario, you know you have the home arena for you, San Diego, and Tacoma, right? So a theory, play this out, is my guys can sleep in their own beds for the whole series. There's not going to be any fans there.
Yeah.
So, but it's our turf, it's our arena. We're used to the way the ball bounces. If we pick San Diego or Tacoma, we're staying at home. That's the counter argument to picking Dallas.
Sure, but do you? I mean, I know that. So we're if we were the NFL, and a coach doesn't pick the lowest seed. Let's say there's this weird 7-team NFL. If the coach doesn't pick the 7th seed and loses, he gets fired instantly almost every single time. Obviously in our sport, that doesn't happen because there are no city. We don't have the luxury of being able to hire and fire $1 million and multi-million dollar coaches. But it just seems to me like, God, you look at everything and all the matchups and the records, the negative 39 goal differential, the fact that Dallas only scored 40, and match all that up, and it should be just a blowout 2 games for Ontario, 1 at home, 1 in Dallas, and then plan on going to Kansas City. And I know all the things, like sleeping in your own bed. Dallas is a physical team. There's all these things, but then in the end, it's like, but they're 1-9, and they only beat a team that had more COVID players re-signing than they had core team players. It's the only game they won.
So I get that, but then at the same time, if you look at Ontario's record for this season against Tacoma, they've beaten them every time. So it's like tomato. Both of the teams were going to beat them.
Yeah, so I think that when Ontario announces their decision, the logic will be clear, right?
Right.
They either decided Adams' way made sense or Gio's way made sense, right? I can't see any reason why they would take San Diego first round. Why would you give San Diego an excuse to rally for a Southern California clash? So I think that'll be clear. They chose Team X for this reason. Right, done.
Yeah.
But then Kansas City has to come and, all right, did our choices get taken from us? It's kind of like the NFL. It's kind of like the draft, right? You've got a draft.
Right.
Yeah.
The person on the top of the draft board you wanted got taken. All right, who's your second?
There shouldn't be any thinking about, is what you're saying. Is that no matter what Ontario announces, Kansas City should be like, done.
Okay.
Until they rethink it. Yeah. LeSharon says, don't jinx it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's complicated by the fact that it's not a normal year. So if the Comets were in a normal year and could pick arena dates, they would go anywhere on the road first, right? And then no matter what happened, they know they've got the home game and then potentially the mini game if they need it. It's just this year. You've got to, if you're Kansas City, you're going to have to take it on the road, which a championship team should be able to do, right?
Yeah.
And then you're hosting the semis.
Yeah.
Dag, we're going to see San Diego out the first round. That's crazy.
No, I don't think so.
Did I say the guy who thinks the sidekicks have got it in the bag? Did I say that San Diego's out in the first round? I said, so if you're like watching this recorded, go back about 40 minutes or 30 minutes.
Yeah, he makes stuff up. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
I'm just kidding, Eric. I'm just kidding.
Come back home.
Jonathan just had a really interesting point that has nothing to do with team's strength and how they match up. He said, I see your point, Eric, but if I own the Fury, I'd want the best chance that a West Coast team makes the finals. That would be after April 1st when California would allow fans. I'm not picking Seattle or Tacoma or San Diego because you don't want to knock them out because you want the chance to have a home championship game. That's really interesting. It's a aspect that you never think of in sports because you just look at the matchups. You don't look at the business side of it. And that's kind of what I was going for.
But as Adam said, I think the finals are going to be in Kansas City anyway. So
we're not hosting any finals, but that's a really good point, Jonathan. I hadn't thought about that too. Is I've kind of had it in my mind that there's no way the finals are going to be in Ontario because in my mind, Florida or one of the Missouri teams will be in the final in my mind. So I hadn't even considered the possibility of sort of like the three degree chess. why would the Fury want to ruin the odds of hosting either San Diego or Tacoma in the final and bring it all there? So I'd say that makes plenty of sense. And if you couple that with hey, we like our Dallas matchup and maybe San Diego or Tacoma gets hot, I think then if that's the case, Jonathan, to look at the matchups and to see what Florida does to counter Ontario in that semifinal, in
If
that final matchup.
I'll tell you this, if San Diego gets to the finals, you don't want to play them.
Oh,
because that means
understand.
they've fixed all the issues and they've overcome all the problems, and they've probably beaten Florida at that point.
But is there a possibility that Jonathan and Philly and Panda could be calling a final series out there? I think it's absolutely possible, but certain things will have to play out.
Perfectly.
Yeah, to make that, I mean, I'm more convinced that Ontario will be in the final than that it would be a pure West Coast final. I think Ontario has a really good shot at winning this whole thing. They're doing this humble, oh, we need to get better. And I know that they're a little bit demoralized having lost to Florida again, but if they can stay healthy, did you watch the thumping that they gave the ambush?
Yeah.
Right.
They've got Cargo. They've got Nestor. Stinson on his game is a top 5 player in this league.
He's out of this world.
You've got Robert Palmer's been scoring goals for them this year, and you know he's going to play stout defense. You've got Uzi on defense. You've got arguably, and we could get into goalkeeper of the year. Toth keeps on trying to say, I haven't given it up yet. And I've got a lot of respect for Toth, but DeLima has been sensational this year. And so they have the pieces to go all the way.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind. Florida, what's impressed me is I think they've had time as they've added more players from the north of Florida. They've found a way to pull them into the system. And I think that they're gelling at the right time.
Yeah, I think you can make an argument for pretty much every single team. Like, you wouldn't be surprised if, like, Tacoma won. Like, I still think Tacoma's going to win. I mean, you've got Dantas Pereira, you've got Waltman and Toth in the back. Like, I think that's possible. And you can say that with any other team, maybe except Dallas. Sorry, Gio.
It's okay.
I think with St. Louis,
I love the naysayers.
so St. Louis just play this through. They get through the quarterfinals. They'll have to play here in Kansas City 2 games. They don't have an outstanding record here in Kansas City. So to get back home to host, they're going to have to prove they can win on the road.
Yeah.
They'll have to win at least 1.5 games or 1.25 games, right? So they'll have to win 1 out of the 2 and the mini game in Kansas City, not at the Family Arena, for the privilege to get back to the Family Arena to host it. If they can do that, then they're sitting there at home where they've been extremely competitive this year. And I know that Shelley Clark would love to have a trophy in that game too.
The weird thing for me about St. Louis is they haven't had the same roster 2 games in a row. Actually, the closest they've had to 2 games in a row with the same roster is when they had all those COVID players out. But Max has been out for 3 games now. There's a lot of pieces missing, and they're still doing really well. So I'm just wondering if they get all those pieces in it gels, what kind of damage they can do.
So yeah, I got a question to kind of get away from teams and kind of go into a micro view. Who do you guys see as a player getting just turning it on in the playoffs?
Vanzella.
Vanzella?
That was easy. Yeah.
He's never done that before.
He's never done it before. I'm not going to, Vanzella, 100%.
One of the best games, even though we lost, was the Wave versus Blast, when both Josh Lemos and Van Zella came out of their injuries probably a month too soon and still battled each other out. And they were on the opposite sides of the arena, and it looked like a boxing match. It was just insane.
Yeah.
Who
That's
wants?
why I want to play San Diego. I've seen it before. Van Zella going into the playoffs, not his best.
Matt has
And then
trauma.
it's-
So-
yeah, I do have trauma.
Everybody here except Gio saw Toth and Waltman at the All-Star game.
Oh, we did, yeah.
Why we gotta do that?
And so Toth had an amazing first half, and Waltman was lights out. For me, yeah, I'm waiting to see goalkeepers.
There we go. Yeah.
Honestly, goalkeepers today compared to 1987. We had to talk about that. Goalkeeping today and Tacoma. Who do you want to play against? If you're
No.
playing, you want to play against Toth or Waltman?
You don't.
Yeah, right. It's been interesting though, because I think Toth has been established as the number one keeper.
He is, and then you head east, right? We already talked about the Lima. Neto has been sensational. Yeah, I know he's gotten critiqued by some Comets fans for some of the goals he gave up. One in St. Louis, one recently against Ontario. Some of the saves he's made, unbelievable. Paulo, they're going to ride with him. I mean, Nick and I are huge fans of his. He just brings a different dimension, particularly in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
You have to game plan against. And Silva and Florida, I mean, just because everybody else plays each other all the time, he's arguably the best goalie in the league. I'll say this about Gamboa. We saw him yesterday. He had a great game. I know he gave up a lot of goals, but he moves side to side fast. He gets down fast. We saw him. We saw Sonaldo earlier this year. I think the goalkeeping this year has we can get back in a comparison with the 80s. I love doing that. Somebody wants to tee up a goalkeeper from the 80s. We'll have that conversation. But I think that's been one of the when you look back a few years from now at a 2021 season, it's going to be the year of the goalkeepers. And I would say that in the playoffs, who's going to make the difference is going to be a goalkeeper.
Oh,
I
yeah.
completely
Yeah.
agree, because some of the saves that, not even just the saves, just like the way the goalkeepers play literally turns the tide. So like half of the St. Louis's comebacks have started with Paulo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Half of the like just the fact that no one could score on Bardo just ate away at teams, that confidence. And then you see Florida just take control of that. So it's like, it definitely is a lot to do with the goalkeepers. And honestly, I do think it's going to be won by a goalkeeper.
Well, and Jonathan just wrote in about San Diego's defense. I think San Diego, if they could hold a game to 3-2, 4-3, they could definitely win that. I think.
Yeah, that's Van Zella's that's his thing. He'll win a scrappy 4-2 victory or something like that. So I think you're going to see Van Zella in the net more than Pardo, because honestly, I think Van Zella's a better keeper, especially in the playoffs.
They have the lowest goals against by 12 goals at 39,
That's crazy.
but they also have the lowest goals for by, if we leave Dallas out of the thing, they're 21 goals behind Tacoma in goals for, which is insane. It's
and
crazy.
most of that is from Escote, which is crazy.
Right. They announced or in Craig's article, he had the number of goals that was scored and who by whom. Craig Charles doesn't have a goal.
Nope.
Gordy Gerson didn't even play last game. Ryan Farber got his first point. It just crazy stuff.
Yeah, Escoto's the guy. If you had asked me about 2 weeks ago, I would have had him first team all league. I think that some players are moving. De Souza, depending on how San Diego's defense does on Brazilian night, De Souza could be the goal scorer champion this year. And he is legit. He is definitely legit. He knows how to find himself in space. He's opportunistic as well. In Florida, IB, mean, I heard from somebody who thought this is going to be a rough year for IB because there's no Max feeding him the ball. Well, guess what? IB's figured.
So many people feeding them the ball.
I saw a lot of those comments, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Ian played and won 2 championships before he played with Max ever.
Yeah.
And Max won how many ever championships?
Yep.
Was it 2?
Was
In Baltimore?
one in
It was
Baltimore
In
and
Baltimore, 1 or 2 before he ever played with Ian. It's like both these guys are going to do okay on their own. Granted, they love playing with each other, and it's a heartbreak for both of them. But it didn't surprise me at all that Ian went down, and just as it didn't surprise me that Frank Tyus started his season out with 3 hat tricks in a row, or what? Was it 3 hat tricks in a row?
crazy.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah,
next
it was
game
like
he had
3.
2, and then they
2.
figured him out, and he kind of fell
Yeah.
off.
He doesn't have to score all the goals for Ontario. They have so many good players on that team that.
Well, right. It's like Rion, if he's not scoring, he's pulling a single or a double team and opening up the rest of the thing. So he's just involved in that scoring play as everyone else is.
The other interesting thing about Kansas City, if you've watched them all year, is and what makes them a dangerous matchup is how to match up against certain players. And so Gibson's playing up front and back. Lewis is playing back and then front. Lee is playing back and then front. And then Kevin Ellis, you never know where he's going to be. And so you think somebody's a forward, they're actually a defender. You think they're a defender, they're a forward. We're in St. Louis, and I'm like watching. So Gibson was suspended because he got red carded down in Florida. And so Stefan Stokic was coaching. And the power play has Matt Lewis and maybe Rayleigh, I forget. But I'm like, why are they playing 3 defenders on the power play? Well, because Rayleigh is a sensational player. Matt Lewis can score from different places.
Yeah.
We gave them both shout outs yesterday, and they came through. Matt Lewis I interviewed, and then Rayleigh we featured before the game because you've got some of your best players or defenders there. So let's create interesting situations where we can use them.
Rayleigh's goal where he popped his leg out of his socket and moved it over to I still don't know how he did that.
Cyborg. I told you Cyborgs are going to be in the playoffs.
It was.
And the
Did
other
you see that goal, Matt? The one I'm talking about yesterday versus Dallas?
I'd have to go back. I watched most of it, but
I think it was Matt Lewis running down the side.
Rayleigh's coming in the box. He got his left foot out and is barely contorted it like this. Yeah. So
it was like a toe ball pretty much.
It was the tip of the if he wore a shoe half size smaller, he wouldn't have scored that goal. That's how close it was and how much he stretched out on that. It was crazy.
One of the things you're going to hear us talking about as we head into the playoffs, Nick and me, is the Kansas City connection. And so in the days of yore, I talked to Kevin Ellis about in an interview a couple games ago. In the days of yore, Kansas City had to import players from St. Louis. So St. Louis was, if you wanted American players, you had to get them from St. Louis, fine. But that has totally changed now. Even in St. Louis, there aren't as many St. Louis players playing there as there used to be. And that's a separate conversation. But when you add in how many people grew up in Kansas City and are playing for the Comets, and then how many people played college in Kansas City and playing for the Comets, it's really a Kansas City team in a way that some of the older Comets weren't. And so my pitch for why you should be excited if you're a Comets fan about the MASL Comets versus the Missile Comets is this is your team.
Yep.
Guys who grew up in Kansas City or went to college in Kansas City and made Kansas City their home. In some ways, this is more a Kansas City team than those mythical teams in the 80s that drew 15,000 fans but always choked in the playoffs.
I think what KC's doing is amazing with their homegrown talent, and it's not just in the Comets. Even if you look below that, with the Sunflowers, that's almost all homegrown play or all players, and that's one of the things that they want to do. Omaha Kings, another great team that picks up a lot of young players and stuff from that area. So it's like you guys have a pool of players that not even just now on the team, but for the future. So it's really awesome to see that.
Well, and I think that's the model. And so you spent a lot of time on the show, but you also spent a lot of time offline comparing with people who are engaged with other groups on Facebook. We'll just say it like that, who lament that what happened to the good old days.
These are the good days.
Arguably, well, first of all, this model is more sustainable, right?
Yeah.
You have owners that are losing millions of dollars every year like they did back in the MISL. But if you could get multiple teams making a commitment to be local and get fans to buy into this is our team, that's why St. Louis was so special back in the day, because it was St. Louis guys. I went to high school with so-and-so, or
Yeah.
it was like that. And I think that's the future of this game. Is it may not be all guys who grew up in Baltimore or Kansas City. It'll be sprinkled in college guys too. A lot of Brazilians, by the way, who have played college and worked this way. But there's something to be said when the guys who represent your crest, your jersey, are from your town.
Mm-hmm.
I think the league needs to do a better job of marketing that. Tacoma has a lot of local guys there, and they counted their it's like 14 or something when you add in plus college. That's got to, for me, that's got to be the future. Is how do we make this? Let's get our town behind this team.
Yeah.
That's where you can start building the passion.
I know. So I know Milwaukee is heavily international players, as is St. Louis, but I know both Milwaukee and owners, Mike Zimmerman and Shelley, and Shelley probably even more, really want their players to be in the community and involved, and don't really tolerate players that don't want to be in the community. There's been a number of people let go over the years that were kind of big name players that it came out that they're like, well, they were interested in being part of the community. We want players to support St. Louis, and that's what we want. And the Wave players who have become ingrained in the youth coaching and in the city here, they're not Milwaukee natives. Ian Bennett's not from Milwaukee. He's from Canada. He's not from anywhere near a team that's in the league right now, but he just makes himself that presence in the city.
It's interesting. It's interesting. You know, we're talking about the homegrown talent. I was at the press release with the Baltimore Blast thing, and I was afterwards I sat there and talked with Coach Bascom, and he and Ed, like, the future that they want for the Blast is, local guys. So like this year they brought on 3 local guys, and they're from here. They played in the youth teams here. They played in college here. They've done a lot, and that's the direction they want to take. And I completely am on board with that, because a lot of these areas that some of these teams are in has crazy amount of talent. It's like the DMV area, they have so much talent here that Baltimore Blast could have 3 reserve teams if they wanted to.
Yep.
And I think it's, one, financially probably better for the teams, and 2, like you said, you'll get the support from the local fans. So I would love to see more local guys for each team, honestly.
Yep. All right. So I got to get to work in the morning. I'm still in the office, by the way.
Oh,
so I have to go sleep and then come back. So give me your last question.
Should we make it an easy one? Who do you think is going to be in the finals?
So much for an easy one.
Nice, easy softball question for you.
So it's a challenge between my heart and my head. All right. So in my heart, Nick Bassos and I are driving on that Sunday, what's that, April the 11th, to watch the Comets there hoist the Ron Newman Cup and bring it back home to Kansas City. As spectators, right? We're just going to sit there in my heart, right? Probably the way it would work out, it would have to be against Florida, because I don't see Florida picking Kansas City in a semifinal. So, right.
Mm.
But my head would probably say go with the top two teams. I mean, if you were to just to say rationally which teams had the best matchups and had the best chances, I'd say Florida and Ontario. But I'll couch that in this is an unusual year, right? So the old rules of home field advantage don't play. There's going to be a lot of neutral site games. We don't know how that. I mean, the neutral site games have been odd this year anyway. So that just gives you more reasons to tune into that first round, tune into us to the semifinals. We're going to have to do a lot of homework because 3 of the 4 teams, knock on wood, 3 of the 4 teams won't be Kansas City. Potentially 4 of the 4 teams won't, but we're going to treat that as an opportunity to be ambassadors for the league, and it's going to be a spectacle here. And then wherever those finals end up, whether it's in St. Louis or Ontario, those teams will have gone through a lot to get to that point.
Yeah. It may be even with the first round bye, it may be even more of a battle than we've seen in the previous years, just because it seems like, I mean, with only 7 teams and the talent stacked, it seems like there's going to be no, even if the first round's against Dallas, obviously Dallas is playing someone in the first round. It's not going to be easy. And we may find out Dallas wins 2 13-4 games, or I mean, Kansas City wins 2 13-4 games against Dallas. But it's still not going to be an easy, walk in the park kind of game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I know where to find you guys. We get the week.
Yeah.
It's Brazilian night in Dallas coming up. Freddie's supposed to make me Brigadero. I haven't heard yet, so we'll stay tuned. And then I've got to check. I got to get back to the goalkeeper rule. Okay, hold on. Before I go, Brendan Malarkey, who's watching, I'm going to read this. I got sidetracked. Thanks for keeping me honest, Brendan. Erik, the only time you can play without a goalkeeper or 6 attacker is when the team substitutes its goalkeeper or 6 attacker while on possession of the ball during a delayed time penalty situation. In which case, the player replacing the goalkeeper does not need to wear a jersey, that's what Craig Childs was talking about, which distinguishes him or her from the other players and the referees during the delayed penalty situation. That's Rule 3.6 goalkeeper substitution. And then, so Rule 3.6 goalkeeper substitution. So I think what I'm hearing is Dallas could have substituted anybody in on Saturday or on Sunday and gone 6th attack or taken advantage of that situation. Gamboa could have just left the field, somebody drop off, and then they could have played. And that makes all the sense in the world. I think if I were an MASL coach heading into the playoffs, you talk, Gio, about having a guy on the far side of the bench. I mean, one of the things that we'll be watching for is just a little nuances is what are the substitutions on and off? Can you start losing players paying attention and start making substitutions? Comets had all sorts of trouble with Tacoma and counters. And so what are we going to see on counterattacks? What are we going to see on substitutions? And how will people leverage the rules like this? And so stay tuned. It's going to be a great playoffs. Thanks for your support of the league all year. Thanks in particular for your support of our broadcast. And I know Matt's not there right now, but definitely a shout out to Matt for the idea of putting our jerseys up and for him ponying up on Nick Bassos. Nick and I both appreciate it.
I wish I could have won one of those, but I wasn't going to pay $400. And I didn't want to outbid Matt. I didn't want Matt and I to find ourselves at $400 without realizing it. Hey, one more line on that. That's the goalkeeper rule. I brought it up now. So it says the goalkeeper substituting during dynamic play does not have to be within the touch line when substitution for 6th attacker. The goalkeeper must make a move towards the team bench, and after doing so, may no longer participate in the play. So so as long as the goalkeeper starts making a move, they could pull the 6th attacker off the far side of the bench which if they're on the far change, fourth quarter, that's when it's most like, well, second or fourth quarter, that player could jump right into the play and the goalkeeper could be 40 feet from the bench.
Yeah, and Brennan Malarkey said Adam is right. I should frame this for you. Adam is right.
Thank you.
Don't toot his horn like that.
I am also not coincidentally announcing my retirement from MASL in the Box, because this has been my goal all along.
Better, it all downhill from here. So my parting shot would be, if you get a chance, go back to the game. It was the free game, right? Yesterday.
Mhm.
Be able to access it. Second quarter, watch the penalty call, and Dallas didn't leverage that in terms of a goal scoring opportunity. Not that they could have or necessarily would have, but if a guy jumped off, they would have had an odd man opportunity there.
It's something that happens so infrequently. You hear this all the time, and I don't want to keep you any longer, but we've heard times like in NFL games when it goes into overtime and it ends and nobody wins, and they go, "Oh, we tied? I didn't even know that was a rule." And these are guys who are getting paid millions of dollars to play this game. So you have to have so many things right. The coach has to have communication with the goalkeeper and a player on the bench and have all synced right to get that in right. And of course, it would be Craig Childs that would figure all that out in the middle of play.
Of course.
So then my parting shot is, watch how teams use timeouts. Since timeouts have now been elevated to the consciousness of this league.
Yeah.
Watch how teams use timeouts in the playoffs, because you can change momentum not only on the offensive side but on the defensive side as well.
Before you leave, Eric, I will give you. No, seriously, I will challenge you to watch a Savage game, a Chihuahua Savage, because they do this so well, where they either have pre-prep this or they call timeouts where their top of the box restarts are never the same, and they pull some crazy plays, and 9 times out of 10 they end up in the back of the net.
Yep. Good deal.
Eric, thank you very much for joining. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, Eric, thank you.
All right, we'll see you soon.
See you, Eric. Before we wrap up, Adam, I just wanted, for those fans that watch La Liga Mexicana de Fútbol Rápido, last week I talked about the Northeast region. The North region just wrapped up. Top 4 teams: Savage, first place. Second place, you have La Raza. Third place, you have RSD, in Spanish, RSD. And the fourth place is Soles de Ojinaga. Those 4 teams are going to go to the playoffs. The winner of those 4 teams will play the other playoff winners. So I will keep you guys posted more on that, but just quick update for those fans that follow it.
Nice.
By the way, Benji's killing it.
Yeah, well, I would hope so.
I mean, well, all of Savage is killing it, but Benji went down there and did phenomenal. Why did you just comment?
Did you? I wanted in the chat for the permanent record.
Oh my god.
So, what are your? So it was hard to get. Obviously, Eric knows some inside information from what the team is thinking.
Right.
So that's why I kind of asked him, how pointed should I make these questions? Should we make them real easy in that we know you can, kind of dodgeball, or dodge around the question, or should we ask you, who is Kansas City picking? What are your thoughts on first who Ontario picks and then who Kansas City picks?
So honestly, the sad truth is Ontario is going to pick Dallas. Ontario's going to pick Dallas. I just joke. I really like Dallas. I really like a lot of their players, but we all know Dallas is going to be out due to Ontario. We know this. And 100%, I think Casey's picking San Diego.
See, that for me, that one's tough because I look at the Ontario choice as an absolute no-brainer. I get where Eric's coming from, but I think it's like you watch it. I don't know if you watch a show like Survivor, where it's like the most obvious of who's getting voted out that episode, but they spend the whole episode trying to twist it and trying to edit it to make it seem like somebody else might be going out. And in the end, the person's going out anyway. So that's, I think he's doing with Ontario and Dallas. Kansas City is really interesting to me because I will never forget watching. I don't know if it was last season or the season before, watching San Diego at home with Craig Elston, Magic Voice announcing, talking about the Sockers
Yeah.
Magic. And they were not playing well, not scoring, not connecting passes. They were losing. It was getting into the second half, and Craig just knew they were going to win. And they just found a way to do it. And that's why, with only 10 games this year, in previous years, they would be 5-4, 5-3 somewhere, and then start to make their run. Obviously not the year that they only lost one game, but they would start out slow, or you would watch them play in the beginning and they would win like 4-3, but it was just like fluke plays and not chemistry. And they would come together for like one good scoring opportunity or lose to Turlock or, something weird like that. But I think 10 games just isn't enough. And especially with, there's no home games. I think they're just getting into the swing of how to play. And then all of a sudden there's these players that are injured.
Well, so I will say, I agree with what you're saying, but I will make this 2 points, right? One, San Diego is at the point where they're still barely getting by, right? They haven't played enough games, so I completely agree with you. So that getting enough in a regular season might be enough, but in a season where San Diego has had seasons with these stacked players on their team, they have had talent upon talent. Now they're being challenged with teams that also have talent upon talent. So maybe that barely getting by isn't going to be enough.
That's true. So a while ago, Brad asked, what are Childs and Slav's injuries? You answered that too.
Oh yeah. So Childs has a knee injury,
Right.
and he may be back. Not 100% sure. Slav, I have not heard anything about.
So what would be nice is if the MASL had this thing called the injury report, and the teams would actually give. So the only two teams that are giving injury reports are KC and I think it was only KC last week. Maybe no, Florida didn't play last week. Yeah, maybe they did. Maybe it was KC in Florida.
Oh, didn't Dallas too?
Or maybe it was KC in Dallas. But like St. Louis just stopped giving reports. San Diego never did. Ontario did once or twice. But I think the teams are like doing this as like some sort of strategic thing, because in the whole COVID thing, we were hearing about players who were out in the little pregame thing.
Yeah.
Max never showed up on our injury report.
And he's injured, right?
I don't know. I mean, they said in the one game, the one right after the last one he played, they said, Everton said it was a playoff game, he would be playing, but because it's not a playoff game, he's not playing. So that makes me wonder, like, has San Diego just basically, we're not going to move anywhere, and because of the way the seating is done, we're not going to get to pick our game. Someone has to pick for us. It just doesn't even matter what we do. So we're going to rest our guys extra long and just focus on the playoffs. I think that's a really dumb idea to do as far as momentum, because we've all seen momentum. And I had a thought on momentum. I'll bring it up in a second, but that was my thought on San Diego. If they just said, you know what, ship it, we're sending it in, and playoffs are a new season, and we'll see what happens with the roster against Dallas. If they want to try to get some momentum, it should be an easy win. If they stack up their roster and they really get things going and really get chemistry going, we know they're serious about things. If they don't, they either have some serious injury problems that they're not disclosing, or they're just sending it in until the.
So with Dallas, right? Or sorry, not Dallas. With San Diego, this last game, they pretty much had their whole roster except Childs, Slav, and Gordy, right?
Somebody else, Eddie Velez was not there. I mean, granted, he's kind of a bubble player.
Right. No, I'm saying like players that you would say like could do something for them, right?
You would think so.
So my point to that, Gordy's not having a great season as far as finding the back of the net because he's super energetic. He's definitely a pressure. He definitely disturbs the attacking side of the other team. So I won't discount him as not a factor. But Childs, for me personally, hasn't been a factor. As
Right.
where Gordy and Slav have.
Gordy has had some really good defensive plays
Right.
where he shows up out of nowhere and teleports in and blocks a shot.
And then teleports on the other side.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Right. So Gordy plays a role as where, for me, Childs is just, I don't like Eric said, this is a young man sport at this point.
I think it is. So my question, my thought on momentum, I was thinking of this last night. If any of the guys out there are watching our stats guys, I know Brian Holland, I don't think he would watch our show, but Brendan Malarkey is out there. Does anyone have a stat on the overtime winner versus the last goal scored in the game? Like what percentage of overtime games are won by the team who scored the last goal in the fourth quarter? Does that make
Jonathan,
sense?
we need you.
We need somebody. We need somebody to be able to look up. I don't know how you would even look up that stat. I think you would have to go manually through games.
I think you would have to go manually through game unless someone has a database of all the stats and could gladly share it to me, and I could do a lot of pivot tables.
Yeah, you're right. You'd have to, because I mean, you get so many. You always talk about the momentum going into overtime, and so many times teams that come back and score that last goal to go into overtime win.
Right.
And it just happened last night, or yesterday in the St. Louis, San Diego Tacoma. Who played that? What day is this? Stupid daylight
Tacoma
saving
won it
time.
in overtime. But so here,
Stars and Soccer, Tacoma and San Diego. Yeah.
I think that one would have been backwards because San Diego had the momentum going into it because they had to pull it back in order to go into overtime.
No, it was 4-3 Sockers, and then Tacoma pulled
Oh, you're right. The last minute, yeah.
Goalkeeper, and they scored on sixth attacker.
Yeah.
And then they scored.
You're right.
And that's what we see a lot. We see a team that's down make that tying game, and it was different in Ontario, obviously, but especially in a game of with fans, the energy of the fans just destroyed a lot of teams. So I'd be interesting to see the last, maybe all MASL stats of overtime winner. Is the overtime winner the same team that scored the last goal in the fourth quarter?
It's crazy how many overtime games we've had this year.
Maybe I'll look. Maybe I'll just spend the time looking while you guys watch. No, I'm just kidding.
No. So unfortunately, Matt's not here to do this, but I want to do it.
All right.
Who are your first round games? You heard two of mine. So we have here. I'll go first. Ontario, Dallas, KC, San Diego, and St. Louis, Tacoma for me.
All right. For me, I'm going to open the wrong page and then not have any idea what to look at. Okay, for me, it's Ontario, Dallas. I'm going to go Kansas City, St. Louis.
Really?
So I think Eric hinted at it a little bit, and it got me thinking about Kansas City knows they have to play their second game on the road. So they know, like, okay, what's the easiest road trip right now? Is it all the way across the country, or is it 3 hours away? I think Kansas City matches up against St. Louis better than a very good San Diego team. I think Kansas City matches up much better against this exact San Diego team now, but since there's such an unknown, I don't think St. Louis is an unknown. I think we all know what St. Louis is about, and that doesn't take anything away from them. They're very good, but I don't think they're an unknown. Of course,
See,
it's only 2 hours in, Dennis.
the gamble is, right, what St. Louis do you get? Do you get the St. Louis that you could beat, or do you get the St. Louis that beat Florida?
Right.
So that's
But-
the gamble.
But the gamble against Tacoma. So I don't think Kansas City ever picks Tacoma because I don't think
No, Lane won't let that.
I don't
happen.
think Lane allows his two teams to play each other.
Can you imagine if they end up in the final?
I mean, that would be the ultimate dream for for Lane and those two organizations. And we'll have to have Huffman on if that happens and see his thoughts on it. But I don't think I think he would allow it in the semis because it's going to be in Kansas City.
Right.
I don't think he would allow it in
In the first round.
So I'm gonna. So it's really who you pick between St. Louis and San Diego.
Right.
And I think, I mean, I've been saying it all season long, like San Diego, I know the potential. I know what they're capable of. I know what I've seen from them. And I've seen the Slav shots from the yellow line that hit the upper corner that even a guy taller than the goal could still not block, goalkeeper. And I've seen the passes that are just so intricate in and out. And I've seen Brandon Escoto just pull plays out of nowhere. And they still have more stars on that team. Tavoy
Right.
Morgan scored 2 goals and an assist. And I think, I think there's too much unknown there to be able to walk into that in the first round. So that's why I think St. Louis. And then of course, Tacoma, San Diego. So then second round, who do you have winning all those?
The round, the matches I gave. So Fury obviously going through, Comics going through, and I actually have St. Louis going through.
Okay. Interesting.
And then it would be Fury, San Diego, Florida, St. Louis. Or sorry, Fury, Comets, Florida, St. Louis.
Fury comment. You think Florida picks St. Louis?
Yeah.
All right.
The reason I say that is because, one, did you see the beating they put on them?
Right. I know. Yeah. I mean,
And also Max, no word on when he's coming back.
I think he's back in the playoffs first game.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because, I mean, why would he miss 3 games? Well, granted, he might be actually injured.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
All right. So my second round then is Ontario goes through. San Diego goes through. And I think Kansas City can do it. I think Kansas City and San Diego and Ontario go through.
Actually, you know what? Sorry. I'm flipping this on you. I actually got Florida, KC, Fury, St. Louis. I'm going to flip it. But go
So
ahead.
Florida picks KC then?
Yeah.
All right. So in mine, I don't think Florida picks KC because it's a home game for KC. So I have Florida picking San Diego and then Ontario KC.
Which has the crazy final.
Which I mean,
Our semifinal,
really,
sorry.
all these pairings are going to be great games.
Yeah.
Unless we get some kind of, Tacoma unable to score and San Diego unable to score and they play each other to a 3-2 game every other game. Because we've seen that. And that's just like,
Yeah, it's a snooze fest. It is a snooze fest. So personally, I would love for the final. I would love to see Fury Comets. I said that a while ago. Remember?
Yep.
Because of the talent they have on their roster and also how they match up. It's just some great matchups. It'll be exciting.
I think I want to see Florida, Ontario.
That's gonna probably be it. But
And I think I want to see that because Ontario lost 2 tough games and 1 closer game, but I think you're still at a 7-3 they came out firing, and they came out just on fire. And they came out at the time that Florida kind of dipped and had a couple of their losses in there.
I
But,
think though, if that happens, if it comes down to, which is kind of a tough pill to swallow, but if it comes down to it, Florida and Fury game, Florida take the championship.
I think Florida wins. I think Florida wins no matter who they go against. Based on what I saw the last game, last two games, I don't think there's a team out there that can beat that right now.
I do. I think if KC and Florida meet in the semifinals, KC goes through. But if they don't meet, Florida takes the championship.
Yeah, I mean, Florida completely dismantled both the Stars and the Fury as if they weren't even there.
Yeah.
It was like, holy crap. This is what happened last season. They just
I think
destroyed
KC
everybody.
I think KC can beat Florida because I think KC is the only team that can match their energy.
I think the best matchup. Although I don't know any of these teams at any given day.
Oh yeah.
I think have the potential to win or lose against any of them.
Right, of course.
Except for Dallas. Sorry.
No, it's okay. You know, I really enjoy cheering them on because one, I like the organization, except the head coach. I like the organization. I like a lot of the players, and you know, it's awesome, you know, just to see what they do this year.
Yeah.
But
and so a number of years ago, Rob Acosta won Defensive Player of the Year on a team that only won 3 games. There were a lot of arguments back and forth, but I could definitely see D'Souza winning some awards, even though Dallas may only ever win 1 game.
Right.
I would absolutely be on board with him because he's just lights out, amazing
he's a phenomenal player. Phenomenal player.
He has. So Dennis, the problem with Dallas's coach is he's also their owner, or at least part owner. So there's no way he's going to fire himself unless there's another financial group that says we're not going to back you anymore unless you get a new coach.
That's kind of the same thing in San Diego.
So I didn't want to really say it outright, but is the difference and I think the answer is obvious, is the difference between what San Diego and Florida is doing, could that be strictly coaching? Because you can argue the talent is very, very equal. Is it just coaching?
I think so. It's so before becoming a coach and just being a player, I was always like, it's just a coach. Until I had one coach. He was I guess you can call it amateur or semi-pro, whatever you want to call it. But he taught me a lot, and it was interesting to see, you know, just how he built a culture around the team.
Mm-hmm.
And that like really meshed us together, and we played very well. Now, becoming a coach and being an assistant coach and being a head coach of the same team at, you know, transition, I've seen like what coaches can do. So like I was an assistant coach to a head coach, and the players were just they were the same players, but they just weren't playing to their capabilities. They weren't happy. They weren't, you know, feeling it. And then I became the head coach, not to my own horn, but we've since become
we haven't won a game since.
No, seriously. Since then, we've become 22nd in the state, right?
Nice.
And it's just amazing to see how much coaches affect players.
Yeah, so Dennis, I agree with everything you're saying, by the way.
If the coach isn't selling something the players buy into, it's not going to work. No matter how much you train them, no matter how much you coach them, it's not going to work. But if the players buy in, and you can see it in Florida's energy, you can see it in Ian's energy, you can see it in all the players, how excited they were that last game. They were like, they pretty much came off as like little kids on Christmas.
Right.
So to see that, I think what Florida's doing, they're all bought in, player wise and coaching staff wise. San Diego, completely different story, right? You see how the coach interacts with the players. He's really standoffish. They're not really happy. Maybe it's the fact that they're losing, or maybe it's just the fact that the players haven't bought into his system, and you can see it. You can see the conflict because you'll have moments where the players are playing a certain style that look great, and then they'll transition into a style that's like,
Yeah.
that's not natural. So
And it's weird because his interview where he says, "Oh yeah, we have players that just don't want to work and they think they can just show up at games and win." Like a coach in that Florida system would never ever say that.
exactly. When you get to the point where coaches and players are pointing fingers, you know they're not matching. And
Yeah.
and like I said, what Phil has done for numerous years has been great, but the game consistently changes. If your coaching style doesn't change for more than a few years, the teams are going to figure you out. The teams are going to be able to beat you. So your styles, your techniques, your plays, everything has to evolve as you're growing. And if you don't do that, if you don't make changes, you're just going to be where San Diego is.
What's going to be interesting now that you said that, is how a number of teams have, and Milwaukee flat out said it, we're going to emulate the Blast defense. And that year they won the championship. They're like, we have the offensive power. We know what to do there. We don't have any problems scoring. Our problem is on defense. And if you look at a team like Baltimore, we're going to model ourselves after them. The Heat did exactly the same thing. And all of a sudden the Heat started beating the Blast and being competitive. Now I think the game has evolved past that. I think last year we started to see it, and especially this season, we're seeing this like run and gun and then immediately fight behind the ball and then run and gun. It's just like this. It's not all defense. It's not all just sit behind the ball. But it's also not just all press all the time. So I'm wondering what happens when the other teams come in.
Well,
How much
you saw
adjustments they're gonna have to make.
you saw how the Blast struggled.
Right.
You saw how the Blast struggled because everyone figured them out.
Right.
And you saw. I'm not saying. You know what? I'll just shut up. I'll just shut up. I'll let because anything I say, I will be blamed for. So
Yeah. Right.
I will just say the Blast will look different under new coaching. That's all I will say.
There you go. What are your secrets that we can start working on?
But yeah, I think, and I don't want to say I disagree with Brad, but I think Clay is smart, man. I think Clay is really smart because Fury, like I said this before, now Erik has said this, Fury loves to intimidate people, and they're up in your face from the beginning of the whistle.
Mm-hmm.
And Florida just beat them to it because they knew that's what their style was. So what they did, they pressed on them, and look how it turned out. He studied them. But
I want to comment on what Dennis said about players deserve better than that. Talking about Dallas, absolutely. It's in my little monologue about what I would do as commissioner. My points were made to. There's two things that this game needs to be tailored around: the players and the fans. And the players come first. The fans are tied for first. But that's where you can't tailor the game around coaches. You can't tailor the game around owners. You can't tailor the game around broadcasts and a lot of the other things we talk about. But you have to tailor the game around the players. And if you have a team that's consistently doing the same things and not ever changing, it's not going to work. I mean, there's so much talent on that Dallas team that
ridiculous.
That there's no reason for what they're doing. What you get is, like you said, players don't believe in a system, but they're professionals. They're professional athletes, so they know they should play that system. They're like, well, this is what our coach says, and the coach is our boss. We need to do what our boss says.
Exactly.
And because if you're working at let's say you're a stocker at a grocery store, and the boss tells you to stock everything with your left hand, even though you're right-handed, And if you don't, you get fired. Well, then you're going to slog everything with your left hand if you want the job. It's basically what happens. And I think we've seen over the years players get benched and get moved teams because they didn't follow the system and they thought they were either better or different or whatever. And the coaches are like, well, if you're not working on our system, you're gone.
Well, I mean, look at Mike Da Silva, right? Under Kelly, average player, not even, barely played. Came over to KC. Look what kind of season he's having.
Didn't even get the field in Milwaukee. Now, granted, there is a lot more reasons than that because we were at the absolute top of the depth chart at the time he was on the Wave. But yeah, I mean, he has a shot to go to do whatever he wants now. He's been able to prove that, and I don't know what kind of contract he has with the Blast still, but
I'm pretty sure he's going to come back because you know, speaking to Coach Bascom, it was, man, this guy is smart, man. He wants to do a lot with the players, and not just on the field, but he talks about having them do like leadership seminars, employment development, helping them develop a life after playing, whether it's coaching, whether it's other aspects of business. Like, he really wants to dedicate like developing the players professionally on and off the field, and he wants to put a lot of time into it. So it's really awesome to see like what he's doing and the culture he's building here. So I'm like super excited.
nice.
But even talking to him more so in person, it was like, wow, this guy gets it, man.
While we were chatting with Erik and stuff, I looked up something because it was interesting to me thinking about it. So all the players who say, one of my first thing, not all the players, all the fans who say we have to have the same size pitches. Florida, St. Louis, Kansas City, Ontario are all 200 by 85 feet. Dallas is 200 by 80. If that isn't every team is the same pitch for this year, I don't know what is. So there you go. Hope the fans are happy. All the fields are the same size, minus Dallas, who they have 3 games left and they'll be done.
MASL, listen to you guys. See, they do love us.
Yeah, that's why
one quick point before we wrap up. We're gonna wrap up. Just like how I don't like player coaches, I don't like owner coaches. So those two things need to go out there.
the player coach thing is interesting for me. Because if you can get one that really works and really works well, I think it, like Nick in Tacoma, I think it's really interesting. But yeah.
But the reason Nick and Leo work is because they have really good assistant coaches, right? So we've seen Danny become that. We've seen Danny take the backseat to Chris, and we see him on the bench more.
Yeah.
And being more of a leader. With Leo, he has a great assistant coach, and we've seen that assistant coach become pretty much the coach, whether he's on the field or if Leo's suspended.
See, Dennis, I was going to say, because Leo's always good for one suspension a year.
Right. So, and we've seen that, and the reason they're playing so well is because they're able to focus on playing. Personally, that's what I think. But again, I just don't agree with the player coach. But go ahead. We can end it there.
That's okay. I think we're good. I think we're good for tonight.
Yes, sir.
So playoffs next week. I don't know what's going on next week because there's only one game. So I guess we're going to talk more playoffs. Maybe talk some player signings if something happens this week.
Oh, we'll know who the matchups are.
We will know for sure who the matchups are. So if you guys didn't hear, look for tomorrow, Tuesday, the 16th of March, on Kansas City's page for around a 3 p.m. Central Time live stream to talk about the choices. And I would assume that means Ontario's choice comes out before that. If I were Ontario, I would wait until after this weekend to make everyone just sweat a little
Don't
more.
put that in their head, man.
No, the thing I want to put in people's heads, MASL, make the finals in Kansas City. I don't care about this arena availability stuff. Make the hockey team can go play out in the parking lot. We want to see the finals in Kansas City.
With that, everyone.
With that, everyone. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it. I think Eric carried the show, and Gio, Matt, and I just kind of were along holding the rope. But all right, with that, everybody have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for tuning in. Good night, everyone.
Enjoy the game on Saturday. Bye. All right, we're done.